First of all, before I proceed to this, I must do acknowledgement of persons who have actually contributed towards preparing this presentation. Firstly, Mr. Shamshad Mohammed, Director of Drainage, Mr. Ramnat Bablal, Senior Engineer, Mr. Nico Kursik, that's right, Project Manager, Mr. David Narain, Project Manager. So, with not much ado, we'll now proceed to the role of Drainage Division and as it relates to the challenges of disaster preparedness and management and what attention is required. But first, we must start from the beginning. Drainage Division. Drainage Division original responsibilities lie within, involve only maintenance according to the Waterworks and Water Conservation Act. During the years, the roles and responsibilities have expanded and evolved to include designs, construction, coastal approvals, land development approval, that is, and a lot more as shown in the slide. Type of disasters. I don't have to elaborate on disasters because it has already been done probably from the first start at the beginning of the section. Now, notwithstanding the administration and financial challenges, Drainage's main focus is to identify the type of disaster that occurs, such as flash flooding, onset flooding, street flooding, mud flows, and degree blockages. This is essential to providing a correct solution as well as a course of action in the event that this do occur. So, what happens then? Upon which the drainage main task is to identify a process by which they acquire knowledge and shift their focus on flood mitigation measures to concentrate on the problematic areas. Based on the related tasks, such as the response and the aftermath, it involves clearing and clearing and cleaning. Emergency action are taken with the respective approval. These are action taken after the aftermath of flooding that occurs on the, take for example, the PBR or the EMR, the PBR bus route or the Eastern Main Road. Now, what I'm going to do is to show examples of what occurs. This is a typical example, log jamming of the channel looking downstream. This is located in the Caroni. This is on the EMR and the PBR bus route. What happens is that the land is very constricted and which results in that in flooding. This is another example. This is related to unplanned development that happens within the reaches of the Gomated area. It has resulted in flooding. Another example, take for example, the bridge is not constructed to cater for that amount of water discharge downstream. Initiatives. In light of keeping with the drainage motto, working harder for a better tomorrow, Drainage has cross-examined the organization, hired external expertise, such as consultants, developments of new guidelines, steering committee to deal with the problem in a more proactive method. Now, what Drainage have done, they have more focus on the river basin study, which outlined the ongoing consultancy, tendered and proposed. Notwithstanding this, they have also the coastal protection strategy for the northeast coast of Trinidad, which was completed in the year 2012. The objectives of these studies are to mitigate the frequency and severity of flooding, optimize the use of available water resource, reduce environmental degradation. The North Oropouche River Basin Study. North Oropouche the North Oropouche River watershed is located in the eastern part of Trinidad and drains approximately an area of 425 kilometers squared. That is approximately 8.5% of Trinidad. This watershed harbors approximately 48,000 persons, of whom have experienced flooding in low-lying areas. The North Oropouche was further, for this purpose of the study, it was further subdivided into 4 zones: Lower Oropouche, Gunness River, Sangre and Guayco River, and other areas. The solution that I've presented are very similar to other studies which are summarized later in, as we proceed in the slide. Caroni River Basin. Caroni River Basin is one of the largest in Trinidad. It originates from the confluence of the rivers Aripo and Komoto in the central part of Trinidad between the north and central ranges. Water discharges into the Gulf of Paria just south of Port of Spain. The Caroni River Basin drains approximately 750 kilometers squared of north and central range of the island. As we can see here, the software that was used was named as HEC-HMS. They have actually subdivided it into different catchment areas for the purpose of design. They were designed for 1, 5, 10, 25, 50, and 100 years return period. This was modeled accordingly. There were several solutions identified upon which the major solutions for the construction of flooding control dams and retention basins are shown in the next slide. This map shows the approximate location of the Caroni River Basin. It shows where the dams are to be placed as well as the retention ponds. Ottawa River Basin. Ottawa River Basin study is one of Trinidad's second largest river catchment, approximately 475 square kilometers. The western area is characterized by sloping lands and minor watercourses and relatively densely populated. The strongest feature is the Knapmeyer Road, running in an east-west direction. The flood zone areas identified by the consultants are identified in the following slides. These are the more concentrated areas in which they have done the analysis, data verification, rainfall data analysis, and proposed solution. Now, the Port of Spain flood alleviation program. It is well known that the capital city of Trinidad and Tobago experienced perennial flooding. Consultants were hired to propose solution based on the catchment area. This subcatchment area was developed into 8 working packages to alleviate flooding, local flooding. The return period that it was designed for was 1 in 25. This program is now being undertaken by the PEU, the Program Execution Unit within the Ministry of the Environment and Water Resources. Now, as we see, there are several major consultancies that I have shown. Based on the investigation and ongoing study, Caroni, Caparo, North Oropouche, they have all identified 3 aspects: do nothing, non-structural, and structural measures. The do nothing approach. It was analyzed using a cost-benefit analysis, and some of the factors that were considered were listed here. If it was more economical to do nothing, minimizing the losses, or it was considered to take this approach, but again, the amount of flooding that actually occurs. Non-structural. This is the softer side of engineering. Some of it are short-term solution, while others focus, which was considered a more the revision of the policies, such as floodplain management, land use, education, the compensation, reforestation. Now, as we proceed, the structural measures used was the solution or proposed where there were no existing drainage networks, but were required while other areas more focused on the flood-prone areas where the drainage network required much improvements. These factors, again, were considered. Now, some of the examples that were proposed for these consultancy service was these structures: detention, retention pond, check dams, realignment, dredging, embankments. They were more focused on proposing new hydraulic structures to alleviate flooding. Now, the main challenges for the drainage division, it is a well-known fact. Disaster preparedness and management is a very important task. The performance during an event also reflects what happens within the division itself. As we move forward, we will cross-examine the internal structure of the drainage division. They have more categorized it into technical, organizational, financial, conflicts of interest, mentality, and dependencies on other agencies. The technical aspect the approach was to include the climate change, the sea level rise, into the consultancy services. So these consultancy services cater for these. The local technical capabilities needs to be reviewed. Also, watershed management will also propose within the river basin study or ongoing studies. The main challenges: the disaster preparedness, the flooding is a recurring event perennially. However, it can be noted that the shift have left drainage division disabled, more or less crippled, due to the loss of staff, technical expertise being transferred to other divisions. And contrary to this, flooding continues, which warrants much attention to the division. Well, everybody suffer on this one. Financial was limited finances. Without finances, we cannot have resources, human resource, studies to perform, implementation of measures, management and implementation of integrated watershed management. Now, one of the main challenges actually are faced within the citizens itself, the habits of citizens, the obedience to laws. Flooding occurs man-made, most of it are man-made, some of it. Due to the culture of Trinidad and Tobago, citizens tend to throw their wrappers on the ground rather than put it in a trash, and it is merely a few feet away. The obedience of laws is very important. We ought to crack down on that. General insufficient enforcement of laws. We need to take more stringent measures. Lack of environmental awareness. Again, littering, it's a problem. Take Port of Spain, for example. Illegal dumping. Diego Martin. Improper pouring practices, Capara River. unapproved development. This is planned as well as unplanned. Planned meaning that we have not approved of the land development, and yet it's being constructed out there. Actions taken are more legal. Unplanned, again, the Diego Martin River, for example. So, illegal initiatives. People believe that within their property, they have a certain amount of, they are sole masters. They control whatever is there. Realigning the drains accordingly, but this is not so. This is you must also get approval for doing that. Conflicts of interest. Many, as they have mentioned over and over again, communication is definitely a problem. We have actually looked at acquiring a parcel of land at the Silako, in which there are different agencies not aware of the performance of other divisions or what it is that they use for. Take Udicott. Udicott has actually identified that as a parking area, whilst Ministry of the Environment and Water Resources have identified it as a retention basin, a proposed retention. The main challenges and dependencies. The scope, limited scope. We have limited scope and influence, and it's dependent on other entities. Basically, the drainage division cannot function as a single entity. It is dependent on other entities. And these are examples of which the drainage division, what can happen, like reforestation. Without reforestation, again, massive sedimentation, Caroni River. Limited influence on planning division. We need enforcements. Right? Political will for funding, planning. We're not planning according to the politics, but rather they are buying into what we stand for. This is an example of land use and planning challenge. The implementation of the bifurcation structure in the Caparo River, reducing the flooding frequency, and immediate increase of housing development took place in this former floodplain. This defeated the goal of reducing the flood risk. Flooding frequency was reduced, however, the flood impact was increased. Now, the Caparo River. Previously, this was a ravine sable sandpit, which was used for quarrying and was exploited. We are currently faced with the problem under the Caparo River study, is that there are proposed solutions to now utilize this and integrate it with the Mamaral Dam. Not only that, is that they have also looked at the watershed management to utilize that water as potable water for irrigation purposes, residential and commercial use. This is what is proposed. This study was done by WASA, who have integrated into this report was actually integrated into the Caparo River Basin study. It was projected the needs of the people and how much water was required, hence the implementation. It was recognized the area of improvement that was identified. These are other initiatives, reforestation, steering committee, consultancies. Well, we already seen that. Strengthening of our bonds, liaising with relevant agencies for law enforcement, education campaigns. This is a slide that actually shows there is something that deals and identifies the area we concentrate on the problematic area that is involved. As you see from the second slide that shows the circulation of what is learned and how it is that they go to mitigate, how it is that they proceed to mitigate. In conclusion, the traditional focus of the engineer with respect to dealing with peak discharges, the shift towards an integrated watershed management approach, and more on the focus on the reduction of peak runoff, and improved use of the limited resources. The flood risk reduction and disaster preparedness requires much more engineering solution and needs the involvement of all citizens. Flood risk is expected to continue to increase in future. So what happens is that we must give priority to the government. Also, we have also looked at sustainable green solutions towards alleviating the flood. Well, that is the end of my presentation. I thank you. Would be willing to have your contribution as well as suggestions to improvement. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Engineer Gunness. It reminds me of my days at Drainage Division. That list of problems that you showed looks very, very familiar, which was about 30 years ago. Anyway, let's start with questions. We have about 10 minutes, so the floor is open for questions.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Adeline Moore from Trinidad Cement. Shastri, good presentation. Just a quick question. Well, Professor Cooper just said that you still have the same problems 30 years ago as you have now. So my question to you is, what will you be doing differently in terms of mitigating the same issues you have had with flood water? You said it's going to be increasing. And my other question is, are you all looking to partner up with people? Because at TCL, we had done quite a bit of research and development in terms of a flood water mitigation through pervious concrete through ready mix. We have campaigned it, and it has not really taken off. So if it is that you all are really looking at partnering and doing alternative methods, are you really serious in getting some of these issues addressed?
Okay, thank you. I just want to mention that the Director of Drainage, Engineer Mohammed, is also in the audience, and he is there to provide support to Engineer Gunness. If needed.
I'm the Director of Drainage. First part of your question. Previously, we concentrated on getting rid of the water as fast as possible, so we developed conveyance as best as we can. And because people trespass on the river reserves, and many of us seem not to understand that that exists, and once we purchase the land, all the land belongs to us. There's a reserve, just like there's a road reserve, there's a river reserve. So our focus now is different. We can't worry with conveyance anymore, it's not working. So we are now concentrating on storage. And in all the consultancies we've done recently, there is a fair amount of storage in each of them. So we have funds all over the place, as you saw in some of the slides. So yes, storage will reduce peak flow, will reduce the impact of flooding and water upstream as well. So that's one of the issues that we are looking at, and we have a most consultancy still to do, and that is the main drive. Storage as well. Storage for several reasons: potable water, agriculture, recreation, etc. With respect to partnering, well, you know, united we stand, divided we fall, and drainage has been divided for the longest while. So yes, we're going to be partnering with other people, other agencies. We've started discussions with some companies. We are looking for unique solutions. We are looking for more green solutions. We don't want to pave and concrete all the drains all over the country and all the rivers and ravines, etc. We don't want to do that. We are forced to do it sometimes, so we do what we have to do. But we don't want to do it. So we are looking for other solutions. We are trying. We have started one project with Green Fund. It will be our first green project if it actually comes about. But that's the direction we are going. More green, more environmentally friendly, partnering with people.
Thank you, Engineer Mohammed. Any other questions? This question. You can just identify yourself, please.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Quality Secure Process Engineer at Atlantic LNG. My question is, what are the plans that the ministry and probably other companies who may be actually working on this project, in terms of what solutions that they are going to provide in terms of the Port of Spain flooded problem? For years and years, we have been hearing about solutions, but no implementation. So I was to find out what plans that they have in place and when it will be implemented.
You want to know when you're going to see it on the ground?
Oh yeah, sure.
That's not an easy question to answer. The first major report was done by Millet in 1981. And since then, the ministry and the ministries and the government have been fighting along the fight to find the best way to implement. At that time, if I remember rightly, it was $300 million budget to come up with a proper implementation program for the state. We didn't have the money then. There was $300 million then, it might be what, $3 billion today? It's 40 years later, almost. Right at this time, there is a study going on by Geneva. We are revisiting the Millet report. They have added their package. We had started one of the programs on the project called the package 1 of the Port of Spain flood aviation, which is downtown Port of Spain itself, Second Street area. Geneva came up with 8 packages for all of Port of Spain, each package being its own independent watershed. Again, we did not have the funding to do the whole program, so it was decided to approach IDB. And when IDB came into the picture, they have their own sets of rules and regulations. So we now have to redesign everything and do over all our proposals and our TRs, etc., along IDB's regulations and rules, etc. That is happening right now, and we are expecting to sign an agreement with IDB next month, after which we hope within 3 to 5 years, all the works will be completed.
Right, so there are 8 packages.
8 packages, yes.
Yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Time for one more question.
Good afternoon, Royal Moses from the Disaster Management Unit. To Mr. Gunness, is there a master plan for the entire country for the next, let me say, 10, 15 years? And I want the next question concerning the central.
Maybe you take this one first. Because
okay.
So, Engineer Gunness?
Yes, actually, hello? Actually, it's being worked on. As you can see, the ongoing consultancy work, they have actually identified the areas where it is most problematic. Now, it's being done to project and to use to integrate as an integrated watershed management plan. Now, what the question is, again, is there a future? Yes, it's being worked on as identified.
Yeah. In fact, that was one of the questions I had, because your presentation showed various parts of the country being addressed, but I wanted to see the whole thing. And it's more than just working on a watershed basis. There are other issues such as, and you have identified many of them, education of the public, for example, being one of them. But unfortunately, we have to leave it here. Thanks again for the presentation. Okay, and we go on now to another presentation from Dr. Narayan Singh, who, in fact, another